What's up? Welcome in. Hoge and Jahns back with you after another OTA practice yesterday, the second of supposed to be three. We got mini camp next week, though. What's going on, Jahns?
Why didn't you ask Ben Johnson about the F-bomb he dropped, the agitation that he continued to show at practice? You had this grand opportunity to continue this conversation, and you just sat there. What's going on?
Well, I mean, I don't know. It's a bad job by me. I didn't know I was supposed to ask him every week about every single one of
I
his.
feel like that's part of your genre of coverage.
Just analyze the coaching every week. Coaching body language. Well, the body language is a big conversation. I'll take 3% credit for starting that conversation.
All right, so grade Ben Johnson's body language when he yelled at his team, dropped an F-bomb, and made his offense rehuddle up.
I loved it. Blew the whistle. F that, huddle up was the direct quote. Well, Caleb was too slow in the huddle. He just was. I mean, you might have noticed, though, what I did ask was about the length of his play calls. Did you notice that? And the reason why I asked that was because it seemed like Caleb was reading a book maybe he was reading Seth Wickersham's book in the huddle. And
that would be a distraction. That would qualify as a major distraction.
So no, in all seriousness, and honestly, if we're going to be on that topic of, the agitation, I thought yesterday's practice, things were a lot cleaner. It did not seem like the head coach was consistently upset about pre-snap stuff, where guys are lined up, how the play calls are. But that one time, Caleb was definitely way too slow getting the play out, and then got to the line of scrimmage, and it was just the whole thing was taking too slow. Because he had actually already yelled, or maybe it was the same time or a different time, he was yelling, "Let's go!" Like,
hurry up.
So he's preaching that urgency.
We've been to a lot of OTA practices in our time of doing this. I want to say that the pace of yesterday's practice was better than I had ever seen before, just in terms of this time of year. The energy, the energy from the coaches. I mean, Dennis Allen was just as animated as Ben Johnson, yelling at his defensive guys. Did you take note of that?
I did, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I like that too. The energy was fantastic. The pace was fantastic. Kevin Fishbane and I were sitting next to a notable front office member, and we remarked on that. We talked about that. It just, yeah, you can say things feel different. They should feel like they should look different and all that. But compared to other very boring OTA practices that I've covered before, the pace, the intensity, everything felt up a notch yesterday at Halas Hall.
Yeah, and I hope that stays at that level. I hope that is something, because I think that there have been times in past coaching regimes where we've sort of seen that early, and then it's tailed off. Like, all of a sudden you're in the week 3 of training camp, and you're like, wasn't it like Nagy who was like, yeah, we're gonna go live a lot, and then they just didn't. They just did it like once or twice, and then it was like, well, that doesn't count. You know what I mean? Like, and I have no idea if Ben Johnson will do that come training camp or not, but just the point about the pace, I think, is a good one. But anyway, we got a lot to talk about on the show. Welcome in. Follow us on Twitter at Adam Hoge, at Adam Jahns. Hoge Jahns is the Twitter account, the Instagram account. Producer Katie does an awesome job getting some extra stuff up there on the social media accounts. And, of course, you can find our merch, like Johnsy's t-shirt, one of my favorites, football, hoganjahns.com.
So simple, so right.
So perfect, yes. Completely different topic, though. I just want to make sure I don't forget about it. I think Ben Johnson might have already been replaced as the most affable head coach in Chicago, good at press conferences and interviews.
Are you going to bring up what's happening with the Blackhawks?
Jeff Blashill was in our studios here at CHGO yesterday. It was like one of the best interviews I've ever heard.
Oh, that's it. You just need Ben Johnson to come to the studio.
Well, we do. So he's more than welcome anytime. But By the way, no knock at Ben. I mean, Ben's interviews have been great. We did have him on CHGO at the owners' meetings, and it was a great interview. But Jeff, how good Ben is, Jeff Blashill, that guy likes to talk. And it was just like, here's a topic, and he would go on for like 4 minutes, and it would be a really good, interesting answer. He gave one of the best answers on accountability I've ever heard a coach give. Like really detailed stuff. So if you're a hockey fan, I would check it out. I'm not going to bore you with what he called poke and hope, which was a cool, I like that, poke and hope. Not allowed. Don't poke and hope that it goes the right way.
I was going to say that is a hockey term if I've ever heard one.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's
anyway,
like, I just don't try the poke check and just, hope for the best. I get it.
All of a sudden, I'm looking at the coaches we have here in Chicago, and look, all the teams still. I mean, it would be great if we can get a playoff appearance from any of them. You're up next, Cubs. But when you look at these coaches in this town, I mean, Billy Donovan, for whatever faults and frustrations Bulls fans might have, he's always been that way. He's a great interview. He explains things with detail, and you enjoy. At least I enjoy listening to him. Ben Johnson's obviously been that way since he's gotten here. Now the Hawks have a great. I mean, Anders Sorensen, I thought actually did a decent job last year as the interim head coach, but his post-game press conferences were brutal. Like he would just answer, he would just go yes or no, and now that's on the reporters to get to avoid those situations. But it was a tough listen. So, and then, I mean, I don't listen to enough Craig Counsell, but he seems pretty good, right?
Yeah.
And Will Venable's at least better than what they had. I don't know. Again, I'm not listening to White Sox post-game press conferences every night either, but it's good.
So speaking of press conferences, now you're a day away from Caleb Williams' press conference. What did you make of everything?
There's a couple in the weeds PR things I'm curious about that I'm sure most of our listeners don't care about, but if I were to read between the lines and say that, okay, one is I felt like he was surprised that ESPN story on the book came out.
Based on the way hasn't come out. Like it wasn't even like we talked about this. It's not even the actual chapter itself. It is the sexiest, most controversial parts of that chapter shared in an article by ESPN.
Right, but I just feel like they were kind of blindsided that article came out.
Which is fair.
Right. Now,
I agree. I would agree with you.
I also wonder, and I don't know this, but I wonder if they regretted not having him talk last week. And if he was not supposed to talk until minicamp, it feels like Caleb's camp might have pushed that up. And again, I don't know all these details. I don't know how much it really matters. But what I'm getting to with all of that was I think that yesterday proved what I thought a week ago, which was I don't think this is the biggest story in the world. I think it is a story. I think it'll something that will go away, at least for the time being, and will certainly disappear completely if the Bears start winning and Caleb starts playing well. But addressing this head on and doing a press conference like yesterday, which was, I thought 90% of it was great by Caleb Williams, certainly helps. And I think it would have helped a week ago. It would have helped next week. So I don't know if the timing of it really matters. But the fact that it happened, I think is great. I think Caleb addressed everything head on. He didn't deny any of the allegations. He added context to the things he thought needed more context. That maybe the book you would assume the book would have provided that context. And he had to get out in front of that because he can't just wait until September for that context to come out in the book. So I thought he handled that all really well. I think after this podcast, we won't have to talk about this for a while until the book comes out the day after the Bears play the Vikings and we see what's in there. But hopefully at that point, the Bears are 1-0 and everybody's feeling good about everything and it's not that big of a deal.
Of course, they're playing the Vikings.
Okay. Do you think my conspiracy theory on all of that is legit?
No.
What? Okay, I'm gonna
like everybody's in on it.
It's not everybody. It's ESPN. Okay. I'm admitting this is conspiracy theory, so dismiss it if you want, but let me run this by you because it's fun. At minimum, it's fun. Okay. The schedule comes out on a Wednesday, and it's an ESPN Monday night football game. Bears Vikings. You don't think much of it other than it's a great divisional rivalry to start the season. Monday Night Football, Bears Vikings, Caleb Williams, JJ McCarthy. The next day, this ESPN story comes out about this book with details about Caleb Williams wanting to play for the Vikings.
Okay, that I'm willing to buy.
And then we find out the book's coming out the day after that game.
Yeah. Okay, you might
ESPN
be onto
book,
something a little bit
ESPN writer, ESPN game, ESPN. And by the way, I'm not hating on it. This is why ESPN and the NFL is really good at what they do. But at least 20% of that cannot be a coincidence.
I'm willing to bet when the chapter actually comes out that all the missing pieces in terms of context, like you'll probably get, like I'm not surprised by the whole Carl Williams thing, just in terms of him wanting to look for the best situation for his son to play in. We heard all of that during the combine from various agents who tried to recruit Carl Williams and Caleb Williams to sign with them. We heard all that. That in itself wasn't surprising. So I wonder if those conversations actually happened back then, pre-draft. And then you have more details on how we like Kevin O'Connell and whatnot, and then enter the Bears. I think that's what Caleb Williams tried to do, is try to fill in some of the holes on the context there, where he had a good visit with the Vikings. I like Kevin O'Connell. Everyone likes Kevin O'Connell, except Kirk Cousins wanted to leave Kevin O'Connell. But I think by the time the book comes out and the chapter is written and we all read it, like I'm willing to bet that a lot of that chapter details how the challenge of the Bears, how becoming the first superstar quarterback for the Bears, the first 4,000-yard passer for the Bears, was something that was encouraging, something that was challenging to him that he wanted to accept. And then once he met Ryan Poles, got to know Ryan Poles, I think he saw someone he could work with that challenge with. So
yeah,
that's my thought on the whole thing.
Yeah. And yeah, I think that all of that context will be in there. And yeah, and I think he did as good of a job as he could have yesterday to kind of explain what he could, including with like the film stuff, that whole film study
You
story.
knew that required more context, even when
100%.
Like it was just like 2 sentences in this article where you're just like, whoa, there's like no way that Kerry Joseph and Shane Waldron were like completely ignoring the first round quarterback taken with the first overall pick. Like, no, that was not happening at Halas Hall.
Right. So, and I thought he did a pretty good job of handling that too yesterday. I'd like to talk a lot about practice and some other things, the body language stuff. Do you have anything else on the book at this point?
No, I just wanted to come out to read it. And that's just one chapter of a lot of different chapters in a book. It's not a book on Caleb Williams. It's
there's a decent chance that like this is, I don't know, not even the best chapter of the book.
You might be onto something with that. The ESPN. What do you want to call it? Conspiracy theory?
Out the morning after they announced the Monday night game.
Yeah. And it has driven conversation nationally and locally since.
I mean, what do you know how they treat those Monday night games? From the morning you wake up on Monday morning with Get Up and First Take and NFL Live and all the way to Monday Night Countdown. What do you think they're going to be talking about? And it's going to be a great game.
Hopefully.
Spicy. Makes the matchup spicy. I love it. By the way, there's also a Kevin O'Connell, Ben Johnson connection there too. Those guys like each other. They're friends. It's not the Matt LaFleur,
Ben Johnson.
Rivalry. That's a different thing. But I was
thinking about this, as watching like the NBA Western Conference Finals last night. Like Matt Eberflus would go to basketball games with Matt LaFleur. Ben Johnson somehow built some animosity with Matt LaFleur. I just very different takes in how to approach your rivals.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. The Vikings could be the friendly rivalry. The Packers should not be friendly at all. So we'll see. I'm excited for those rivalries to continue to develop, and we're not even mentioning the Lions, who, of course, that's where Ben Johnson just came from. All right, the body language conversation. I guess this originally came out a couple days ago with what Albert Breer wrote, and then Ben Johnson was asked about it yesterday. Super interesting. I didn't necessarily think Caleb's body language was a massive problem next year or last year, I mean. But I also loved hearing what Ben Johnson had to say yesterday about what, he doesn't want his team to be a palms up team. It's a sign of weakness when you're always just complaining about calls. And his message is keep the train on the tracks, keep things going forward, next play mentality, all those cliches and stuff like that. But it's interesting because I honestly think it was a bigger problem for some other players besides Caleb Williams. The fact it's being addressed early on, and I think we're seeing it in practice. Like, I don't know. I haven't seen any bad
See,
body language in practice.
I'm not sure this isn't a major story that it's kind of being talked into, in a sense, because it strikes me as a leadership thing. It strikes me as a culture setting thing. It strikes me as a new head coach thing, where he's talking about things he wants to see, things he wants established, the culture that he wants, how he wants his leaders to act. The most natural thing to do here in Chicago, and I'm going to do it right now, is to compare and contrast this with the body language of Jay Cutler.
Mm-hmm.
Major storyline over a number of seasons until he married Kristen Cavallari, and then his body language got a bit better. But like here's my thought on this. I've seen some of the best quarterbacks of all time. We've all seen it, where their body language is sometimes them yelling at their teammates on the field. Like Peyton Manning yelling at Jeff Saturday just to F and snap the ball. Tom Brady yelling at his teammates. Aaron Rodgers throwing his iPad on the floor, or whatever that was, the Microsoft pad. Like there's numerous examples of great quarterbacks having bad body language and bad moments from bad moments in games. That's what happens. But you know what? They're great quarterbacks because the good moments outnumber the bad moments. So if Caleb Williams has more good moments, I don't care. He could throw his cup on the sideline, all that stuff. It's going to happen. He's going to be angry. It's an intense and emotional game. That's fine with me. Like Ben Johnson, yelling "F that," get back in the huddle. That's okay with me. There's going to be anger. There's going to be frustrations. But as long as the good moments, as long as the touchdowns outnumber the interceptions, then I think body language will never be a story. Like, did you ever hear stories about Peyton Manning's body language, Tom Brady's body language, Patrick Mahomes' body language?
Well, right, but what you're saying is, and I agree with you, you got to earn it. Like, that's something you got to earn. So, I mean, Tom Brady by the end was notorious for just like constantly whining, just yelling at teammates, yelling at the refs like every play. Rodgers has been like that. I can't remember enough early on in their careers, but I'm guessing, especially for Brady, that was not really a thing until he earned it. So I do think, until you earn it, like it's, honestly, not to bring this back to hockey all of a sudden, but like Connor Bedard's going through that right now. Like, he's not getting calls from refs, and his body language was terrible at times last year, and it just kind of snowballed to the point that you're wondering if the guy's having any fun. So I think that this, to bringing that back to what Ben Johnson's talking about, I think at this point in Caleb Williams' career, and when you are establishing a new culture, you're coming in here for the first time. I don't think Ben Johnson's going to be like, oh, you're never allowed to like argue for a call, but he doesn't want that to become like an epidemic across the roster. On every play, you got somebody whining about something, or, a classic example with any quarterback, wide receiver. guys know the cameras are on. So you throw a high and wide pass, but it really wasn't high and wide. Your wide receiver was in the wrong place. That's where you get the, they're doing that because they're trying to tell everybody in the stadium, yo, that wasn't on me. And I think there is a time and a place for that sometimes. But for the most part, you don't want that going on every single play, because then you're going to start to have teammates being like, oh, this guy's showing me up, and then it becomes a problem.
Well, it's a leadership thing. And the quarterback position is always going to be one of leadership. Everyone looks at you, good and bad. I even tell this to our quarterback that I coach in grade school, a good quarterback, good young quarterback. Hey, when you get down and you get frustrated, you get knocked around a bit, and you get up and you throw your arms off, everybody sees that. Not only does your teammates see that, I'm like, oh, our quarterback's mad. This isn't good. He's down on himself. But you know what? The opposition sees that.
Mm-hmm.
And what I tell him all the time is that would tell me, if I'm on that defense, we got him. We're in his head. We're winning this. We got to him. You can't show that to them. You got to be there for your teammates, but you can't show that weakness, to Ben Johnson's point, to the opposition as well. It's a leadership thing.
All right, what else you want to get to from practice yesterday?
How about Hoge Jahns is now your starting left tackle?
It's a big moment for the Johns family.
I'm so proud. So very proud. Admittedly, I didn't get a heads up from him. I'm kidding. But to see Ozzie Trapillo at left tackle this soon, I was a bit surprised by it. I thought they would let Karan Amagaji have more run at this, at least to the point where the media is not seeing the competition play out. So were you surprised at all to see the second-round pick there on the second day of open OTAs?
I was not. And the reason is because I had a hunch that they might be both getting this opportunity. And it would not surprise me if next week we see on Tuesday Karan Amagaji at left tackle with the ones, and on Wednesday we see Ozzie Trapillo. I don't know for sure that that's how they're handling this. I sincerely doubt that Karan Amagaji got like 3 practices with no pads on, and they were like, nah, you're out. I think this is a situation where they're giving both guys an opportunity. I think it's the right call. Let's not forget Ozzie Trapillo is a 2nd-round pick. Karan Amagaji was a 3rd-round pick. That matters. It not in like, hey, this guy has better stature than the other. It matters in how they viewed these guys coming out, like the grades they had on them.
They have grades by year, though.
It does, but
I will say, okay, can I add something? Like, even just rewatching what the Bears put out about the draft, another good 1920 drive. Ozzie was like, we're taking him before there's a drop here.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe if we had Ryan Poles, maybe we could ask him, before training camp, if we get him, how they compare and contrast him and Amagaji.
Did you notice the little tell in there too? There's a little tell in the celebration after they drafted him. Ian Cunningham got up and said, "We got our offensive line."
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay. Now, Ozzie still got to earn it, but they certainly, to me, that was a tell that they viewed him like a realistic starter.
Well, they should. He's a 2nd-round pick. But yes, I did notice that as well.
So I bring that up to say that I think he's going to get a very much a real chance to start. Like, would not shock me if he's the week 1 starter.
Are you
Braxton Jones?
Are you surprised that the Bears seem pretty firm on keeping Darnell Wright on the right side, and that they're not willing to experiment with him a bit more?
No, because I think, honestly, I feel like the messaging has been very clear. I don't think they want to do that. They are not ruling it out because they know they might have to. But I don't think they want to do that. I think the perfect world is we drafted this guy in Ozzie Trapillo and he's an NFL left tackle, or we can continue to roll with Braxton Jones if it's not working out, because he comes back healthy. But they don't know that right now. They don't know if Braxton Jones is going to be healthy. They don't know if Ozzie Trapillo is an NFL left tackle. They're not going to know that. Well, honestly, they're not going to know that until September at the earliest, but they might have a better idea of it in August after some preseason games. But they got to keep their options open. But I don't think they want it. I don't want, if they end up moving Darnell to the left side, I'd be a little concerned, honestly.
To me, like, I'm circling 2 dates where this competition really intensifies. It's the joint practice against the Dolphins, and then a week later, it's a joint practice against the Bills. There's going to be so many reps for Ozzie Trapillo, Karan Amagaji against different players they're not used to, some darn good players too, to win the starting left tackle spot. And I would hope that Braxton Jones is close to being as ready as possible by that point, because we just don't know. The expectation is still that he's going to be limited when training camp opens. So there's a door open here for the 2 young left tackles to make a run at this thing with Braxton Jones sideline. And Ben Johnson did mention Braxton Jones being sidelined, so we'll see what happens. But those 2 joint practices against the Dolphins and the Bills, I think a starting spot could be won by one of those players during those days.
That's a good point. And we did hear from Ben yesterday. Those will be one practice each, which I think is a good idea. Those practices always seem to get out of hand on day 2.
There's always a fight or two, and
yeah,
like 4 days of joint practices plus the preseason game. Like, don't even play the preseason game. Then
now the downside of that is what happened last year, where it happened. They did one practice against the Bengals, and it was pouring rain. And remember that they kind of forced it, and then the Bengals had multiple injuries that day, including one guy that ended up being out for the year.
Yeah,
an offensive lineman, and that's tough because you can't, when you have 2 teams, you can't really move inside. I mean, you can try to, but now you got 2 full 90-man rosters on one practice field inside. It just doesn't really work. So there's some logistical issues there. All right. What else? We got to hear from Case Keenum yesterday for the first time.
Yeah. Well, on the field, he's been good. We've only seen 2 practices, but both days I feel like have been good days for him.
Yeah. Do you think this is a real competition?
Yes, 100%. Do I think all 3 quarterbacks are on the roster? Absolutely. But Case Keenum's playing very well. It's just, at least according to my eyes, in terms of what I'm seeing, in terms of the completions he's making. So, I like the idea. If I had one takeaway from the conversations that we had with Ben Johnson, Caleb Williams, and Case Keenum, I like the idea that Caleb Williams seems to has he has an extra coach now in Case Keenum that he can talk to, like, on the weekends when the coaches can't talk to him, where the certain rules in the CBA prevent interactions to a certain extent with coaches. It doesn't apply to players, where Case Keenum and Caleb Williams and Tyson Bagent and Austin Reed, they could all get together and watch film, go over things. And I think Case Keenum is quickly becoming a great resource for Caleb Williams in this.
So I thought Case Keenum did a really good job yesterday of talking up Declan Doyle for, his next job. And then that'll allow him to come in and become the OC next year. I'm just kidding. But how could you not in fact, he even got asked at one point. I thought it was a great question. Are you thinking about becoming a head coach or a coach, not a head coach? Are you thinking about going into coaching when you're done? And Case Keenum said yesterday, he's almost, he felt like he was maybe possibly done after last season until he met with Ben Johnson and felt like this was a really good opportunity. So, but meanwhile, I agree with your point. The coach thing's great, but so far to me, he has been at least the second best quarterback on the field.
Yeah. It seems to me that the Bears are getting everything they hoped for by signing Case Keenum. Good play on the field, good mentorship, good relationships off the field.
There's a huge difference in arm strength, though, for being fair. But I think the depth at
Well,
quarterback's good.
Tyson Bagent, speaking of arm strength, had that deep ball wide open, did not hit it, and he seemed frustrated after that one. Did you see that one over the middle?
Yeah, that was not the greatest pass of all time. First of all, he was late. I mean, Tyler Scott was running right in front of me, and he had to step, and it was like, oh, he's got him. And then it was like one Mississippi, another half Mississippi, and then he threw it.
Yeah.
So he was late, and then he put too much air under it too, and so it was short. And those contested catches are not Tyler Scott's strength at that point.
No.
You really got to hit him in stride once he has a step or two.
The late ball, the slow ball, the ball with too much air allowed the safety to make a play on it, even though the safety had his back turned.
Yeah. Well, that Case Keenum thing will be interesting to watch if it's a real competition in camp. But as he mentioned too in his presser, Tyson Bagent's one of the most prepared, feisty, competitive individuals on the entire roster. So I don't think he's going to go away quietly by any means.
Well, I think what did he say? He's going to have a very long career.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, who knows what that means? But Case Keenum's had a very long career. What is he, 37 years old, same age as Kevin Fishbank, since they had that little connection there in the press conference room?
Yeah, that was, two dads just chopping it up.
And he had a joke about Declan Doyle's beard.
That is weird that Declan Doyle's like 10 years younger than him.
Yeah. Kevin said that.
Yeah. He's like, thanks for reminding me.
Yes.
So, hey, if nothing else, make the preseason games interesting. Like, got multiple quarterbacks that, I think you want to see play. And by the way, I thought it was interesting. He said Austin Reed reminds him a little bit of himself. Now, I think part of that might be similar scheme. Austin Reed's a huge air raid fan. He just, and that's what he played in, similar to what Case Keenum played at Houston. Wasn't that crazy when Case Keenum was like, I didn't know that you could flip formations coming out of college? That blew my mind.
Yeah, well, it just kind of shows you how certain NFL and certain collegiate programs don't prepare quarterbacks the best for NFL play.
Right. But that's
and how big that jump could be.
I mean, this is crazy. So, and he's had a hell of a career. So, all right. What else?
I think the Bears can run the ball. Maybe that was just the energy. Maybe that's the aggression that I saw yesterday. But there seemed to be, even in shorts, even where the offensive lineman would seemingly be at a disadvantage against the defensive line.
Mm-hmm.
I saw what could have been some potentially big chunk runs by the first offense against the first defense.
Okay, now I'm going to meet you halfway and say that I agree. I saw the same thing, and it's encouraging. And I don't like doing this, but I believe somewhere out there in the internet ether, there's some clip of you saying the same thing last year.
They can run the ball?
I think the Bears are going to be able to run the ball this year.
See, and I still stand by that.
Yeah.
It's just you needed your running back to break that one more tackle.
Right. Well, okay, fair, but that running back's still the same guy.
Same guy.
Yeah.
But the offensive line,
it's better.
They look better.
Also, the scheme should be insanely better.
Yes, yeah. There's a couple route combos that you're seeing like utilize a lot. We're like, oh, that's good. Oh, they just did it again. Like that's gonna work. Where players are open at them.
Yeah, they're scheming guys open.
Yes, and the ball's being thrown on time, and your playmakers are getting the ball with 3 or 4 yards of space to turn up field, which is good to see, which is encouraging to see, and it's different players getting the ball.
Yeah, I want to bring up 2 plays from Cole Kmet yesterday, if I can.
Okay.
On that topic, one I'm going to be careful about because I don't want to violate any rules about giving up scheme. The other one's just I'll do the easy one first. The easy one was just Caleb hit Cole perfectly on time up the seam. at one point. It was just accurately thrown. The footwork was good. The timing was good. And it was one of those where guy schemed open, quarterback hits him in stride. That's a huge play. That's an explosive. But it's also one of those gotta have it throws because it is schemed open and the timing does matter. And if you execute that way, it's huge. So I think that illustrates your point. The second one I'll be a little bit more careful about, but we already know the Bears Ben Johnson's talked about this, why he likes condensed formations. And what you can do out of that sometimes, you see the Rams do this all the time, right? For example, is you just do these little quick motions out of it. The Dolphins do all this too all the time. And it's just really hard to defend from a defensive side. So I won't give away the specific, but they use that type of thinking with Cole. And it was run in a way that, like, I honestly don't think you could defend it. And so that I think that speaks to what you're saying. Like, it's just kind of nice to see these offensive concepts that guys are going to be open. It's up to the quarterback to hit them.
Yes. Now, if we're going to look at a couple negatives, I think there was a ball forced over the middle that Tremaine Edmonds intercepted during a team drill. That was Caleb Williams being intercepted by Tremaine Edmonds. And then there was another one forced over the middle during 7-on-7s. I think 7-on-7s, hopefully by training camp, they're a bit more clean. Hopefully there's not scrambles and balls on the ground, all the stuff that coaches say. You want some quick decision-making because it does favor the offense. But in one 7-on-7 drill, I thought there was a ball forced over the middle that was tipped, went to Jaquan Brisker, which turned into a return. Don't like to see that, but I don't mind them happening in May. I don't think the Bears, maybe Ben Johnson probably gets on Caleb Williams a bit for them, but test it now. See what you get away with now in this offense.
I looked at Ben after both those interceptions. I thought it was interesting. Like, he just sort of shook his head and went to the next play call. I didn't really see him,
maybe later in the film room, where he's probably less animated, but very direct in terms of, well, where were your eyes? Did you see Tremaine Edmonds? Because that ball seemed to go right to him.
Yeah. To your point on the 7-on-7s, I didn't think Darnell Wright had the greatest day ever yesterday. It's hard and it's like impossible. Like, I don't know. Is the Bears pass rush better than we think? Are they just having? But it's also not fair because
talking about the full team or 7-on-7s, because Darnell Wright's not there was for 7-7s.
I'm sorry. Yeah, duh. No kidding. Full team, Darnell Wright. Like, there was a couple pressures, like instant pressures that just kind of derailed it. Yeah, the running around in 7-on-7, when there's not a pass rush, it's just.
I mean, there was a beautiful throw made by Caleb Williams in 7-on-7s that I'm sure the Bears social media team may put out. There's a scramble throw. Beautiful deep ball.
To Boykin.
Yes.
Yeah.
But no, it's 7-on-7.
He had been running around. He had been running around for like 4 seconds.
Yeah, you don't want
before he threw it. That was the problem. It was a great ball, though. Really well, like one of those wow throws that Caleb has all the time, where he just flicks. Well, actually, I have this written down. How did Case Keenum put it? Effortless arm talent, and it was accurate, which is to me more important.
See, like I would like him to see, like, let it rip in these 7-on-7 drills. Like, try a tight window throw or two.
Mm-hmm.
Up the seam, down the sideline between cover two. Like, let it rip. Go for it. See if you can fit it in there to Rome Dunze or DJ Moore. Don't hold the ball. That's what I'm trying to get to.
Yeah. Well, I had one of those on the sideline yesterday where I was like, throw the ball, dude. Throw it. One more quick thing I wanted to bring up. Montez Sweat asked about Dennis Allen. I love this. He called him a very complex individual. And I was like, well, that was interesting. And then it turned out like he was talking about the scheme.
Yes, yeah.
But the way he said it was like, he's a very complex individual.
I wanted to talk about Dennis Allen a little bit more because for as much attention that Ben Johnson is getting for like his agitation, Dennis Allen he's just as fired up about the defense.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of things that aren't good enough for Dennis Allen. It's as he's taking stock of things, as the plays are made or not made during OTAs.
Yeah, I mean, it's very similar stuff, just on the other side of the ball. Getting on a player because he didn't know who he was covering, right? Like,
Yeah,
and even though this is all early and these details need to be hammered out, a new scheme, they're all getting used to it. Like attention to detail. It's the same. It's the same type of thing.
there were a couple starters missing: Kyler Gordon, T.J. Edwards, Jalen Johnson. But what did you make of Ruben Hippolyte playing with the starters? He made a play. What was the play he made? Where he showed off his speed. I'm blanking on the play, but what I'm remembering is his teammates high-fiving him for what he did. But what did you make of the rookie playing with the starters?
Yeah, I mean, I think there was some insight on 1920 Football Drive on that too. Like they really targeted this guy. They were excited about his speed. Dennis Allen clearly wants speed at the position. I think he's got a real chance to be the Sam linebacker. I do. So, especially because when you consider the other guys he's competing with were drafted before Dennis Allen got here, and ultimately that's going to be Dennis Allen's making that decision, right, on that defensive depth chart. There's no question. So, yeah, I think he's got a real shot. I like what I've seen so far, and yeah, it's an interesting draft class because I it's interesting because the first two guys are missing. I shouldn't say it like that, but I mean Colson Loveland is out. We knew he was going to be out, but he's got an injury. Luther Burden we haven't seen since rookie minicamp, and then you got a second round left tackle who we talked about in this podcast may start. Ruben Hippolyte may start. Shmar Turner's going to be involved, as long as he's healthy. So it seems like they might get a lot out of the middle, and yet the first two guys with the highest upside that everyone's most excited about, and they're most excited about, it's a big unknown right now.
Yeah, early signs are encouraging. Two more observations before we get out of here.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe three. It was good to see Jaquan Brisker out there for the second week in a row and playing with the same swagger and edge that you want and have come to expect from him. Before his interceptions, it's him celebrating. It's him talking trash. It's him just being the vocal player that he is. And he looks a bit bigger, too. Did you
in a good way?
That? No, yes, like stronger. Because
Mm-hmm.
he's pretty tall and skinny. At least the past couple of years he was. He looks like he's filled out a bit. Put on some muscle mass, which is good. So I thought it's just important to see, especially with a player with his concussion history, which we know the Bears and him are going to take very seriously. And number two, this is like a combo one. I am really struggling with seeing a number 50 and number 55 on the Bears defensive line. Two good players. I think Odangbo might be a good addition. Read Kevin Fishbane's story on him from earlier this week, but just seeing 55 and 50 on the defensive line, 50 would be Grady Jarrett. It's the mind's not registering them as naturally I'm seeing linebackers. Like those are linebacker numbers, great linebacker numbers for the Bears, but they're not playing with their hands in the defensive line.
Yeah, totally agree. So Dio Dangbo is wearing 55 for Lance Briggs. And then
Did you say for Lance Briggs?
Grady Jarrett wearing number 50 is just it's even weirder to me.
There haven't been many 50s. Shane McClellan wore 50 when he switched from defensive end to the linebacker to their starting Mike linebacker. Still haven't seen a 54 out there.
Well, this gets back to either retire the number, don't retire. Like you don't have enough numbers. You've been around too long. You retired too many numbers.
Yeah.
It's weird. I don't know how the Bears. I would like to see the Bears fix that somehow at some point. I'm sure it's not high on the priority list. Like figuring out a stadium probably is more important. But like
But then you have like a den of honor. You can see how I did that? Den.
a den of honor.
Yeah.
Well, if
No.
they build in Arlington Heights, the new stadium probably will have some type of like Bears Hall of Fame or something.
They should have a Bears Hall of Fame. Halas Hall itself is full of artifacts.
Unretire the numbers, do a ring of honor, a den of honor. There should be like 3 numbers that are actually retired.
Who? George Halas.
Halas, Walter Payton, and I will roll with Ditka because he was a great player and coach.
Okay.
And that's it. And there's no knock to anybody else. It's because there's a lot of great players. But it's my own. I've gone on rants about this before, so I won't get out. But I feel like the retire, and even Ditka, if someone argued with me that Ditka should, I'd be like, okay, fine, because it should be like you're retiring somebody's number. Should be like it should be higher honor than even Hall of Fame. It is nobody ever gets to wear that number again, and it should be obvious, completely obvious that if anybody ever wears that number again, it'll be weird. To me, Grady Jarrett wearing 50 isn't weird because of who wore it before. It has more to do with just like the fact that defensive tackle's wearing number 50, and that's weird to me.
It's very, very weird.
Yeah.
When do you think we'll see a number 54 out there again?
There seems to be it's a retired, unretired number.
Very much so. Has not been worn since Brian Urlacher retired.
Well, because isn't there something they're not allowed to retire it? Or is that a Bears thing?
Well, they have too many retired numbers.
I know. That's my point. I don't know.
The Bears have 2 32s right now, 2 26s, 2 25s, 2 20s, 2 87s. I mean, this happens every year because of the roster size, but 2 50s. There's 2 50s. Wait, how did that not notice this before? There's 2 50s on defense.
No, I think that got fixed because that was an issue last week, and I noted it.
Carl Jones Jr. Am I looking at the old roster?
Carl Jones. I think they fixed it. Carl Jones Jr. is wearing 43 now. Last week's roster had 2 50s.
Yeah,
and then I was like, and then there was a number 43 who was wearing dreads, so it was covering the name on the back of his jersey. So I was like, I was standing there with Dan Weeder. We're like, who the hell is that guy? And then I kind of did a process of elimination and figured out it was Carl Jones Jr.
2 25s, 2 26s, 2 27s, 2 32s, 2 33s.
2 26s. Did you say that?
Yes.
We got 2 Devin Hesters out there. We got 2 Mike Singletaries.
What's
going on? 2 Charles Tillmans. And you haven't won a Super Bowl since '85. Too many retired numbers. We got to fix this. I'm willing to help. I'll do it for free. Let me come to a meeting. I will fix this. I promise.
Let me.
Very passionate about it.
Let me come.
And then I'm going to come to a meeting with every team in this town about their concession prices because that's the next thing that's ridiculous.
Too high.
Lower if you're charging more than $3 for a water, get the hell out of here. It's water. All right. I'm done with those rants. I feel good now. I think we're done here. Do we have anything else?
Next week we got rookie minicamp. We got veteran minicamp to detail. I think we're going to preview it, and then we're going to recap it at the end. So stay tuned for. Oh, we'll see. Maybe we'll do Tuesday, Thursday still. Maybe we'll still do that. Yeah.
We'll have to figure that out.
Yeah. Coming your way soon.
Because if we preview it, we should probably preview it Monday. Because previewing it Tuesday morning before practice doesn't make sense. We'll figure it out. Might be some news over the weekend. Might be some stadium news, Johns. Maybe we'll have that to talk about early.
Yeah, we'll see.
After the weekend. The end of the legislative session, Saturday. Something to keep an eye on. So when I finally get away on Saturday and maybe we get a nice day and I'm sitting on a boat for the first time in a month since the last time it was summer for a
Well, now
day,
you're setting yourself up for failure here. Now you're gonna get it, and it could be
then
the state legislator saying, "Well, see you next time."
sorry, I'm off. What? Okay, I could go on another. Why does it end May 31st? There's 7 more months in the year. I know. What do they do?
That's another podcast
They
for
just
another
don't
day.
work all summer.
Like
Well, they got to
teachers.
go talk to their constituents and have town hall meetings. What the hell? I'm a little tongue in
Oh,
cheek on that, but also not really. Like, come
yeah.
on. All right. We'll be back next week. Hope everybody enjoys their weekend. Yes, finally, maybe summer will be here. I hope you enjoy it. I'll try to. Follow us on Twitter at Adam Hoge, at Adam Johns. He'll be on a baseball field near you at some point this weekend. Enjoying that and screaming at 8-year-olds and
No 8-year-old games this time.
okay. So you can yell even more than at the older ones.
No, it's like the saying, they should know better.
Exactly.
But the 8-year-olds, just sometimes for their own safety to pay attention.
Yeah. Well, I got like a unicorn birthday weekend in my world. Because Saturday's my daughter's birthday, so she'll turn 4. But we had a party yesterday already. I don't know. These kids, they just get the whole world now. Lots of
They should.
unicorns. There's unicorn balloons. There's unicorn pin the horn on the unicorn game. My whole house is just pink and purple and with balloons everywhere.
Yeah, the old donkey just doesn't cut it, huh?
No, now it's a unicorn. It's all about the unicorn. They got unicorn cats now. Like, it doesn't even make sense, but that's fine. Enjoy your weekend, everybody. We'll talk to you next week.
See ya.